Hello indie game fan, indie game sequels are not that common since developers do love to experiment with new ideas, but it's always nice to see a new and improved version of existing games. We've included some not so indie titles that I think are still of interest, beginning with Risk of Rain Returns, one that was announced in December and is a remaster of the 2013 classic. Risk of Rain has really exploded in popularity since the release of Risk of Rain 2, so it's interesting to see them go back to their earlier title, where it is being rebuilt from the ground up, meaning that new features that were previously not possible could be added, but many of the original features will still carry over. It has a good pixel art look and is one of the best for a reason, but some of you might not know this, but the IP has been fully sold to Gearbox, who is owned by the Embracer Group, which makes this no longer indie, but I do hope that the developers were paid handsomely for their work, and is still one example of an indie game success story. Another not-so-indie title is OXENFREE 2 Lost Signals, set 5 years after the events of the first game, and looks to continue the creepy adventure game story and gameplay. This has to do with mysterious radio signals with something spooky going on and looks good as well, so if you love the original, be sure to give this a go, although personally, it's not my cup of tea. Developer Night School Studio has also been fully acquired by Netflix, who is venturing into games, but again, makes them no longer indie, but I just know that people will talk about this as an indie game when it releases later this year.
The world turned against us. Yet, we survived. We brought heat to our homes. We healed our sick. We fed our children. Some say we broke our promises. Some say we betrayed our brothers.
Another studio that people have thought of as indie but is not one is 11-Bit Studios, where they are a listed company and have a board of directors and all that, but that does not make me any less excited for Frostpunk 2. While we only have a cinematic trailer and don't even have screenshots of the actual game, this is a sequel to the survival city builder, where you have to survive never-ending frost and winter, and looks to be an expanded version of that, but we will have to wait for more details. Kerbal Space Program 2 is a sequel to a beloved physics sim where you're building rockets and launching them into space, impressing with the realistic physics and attention to detail. The basic premise of the sequel seems to be exactly the same, but with fancy new visuals and a revamped UI, and, I quote, rich new environments to explore, so it might be exactly what fans of the original are looking forward to. There is, however, some alleged shady business dealings with regards to this game and its multiple delays, where publisher Take-Two Interactive wanted to acquire the developer, but the studio heads disagreed due to the terms of the deal, to which Take-Two responded by creating a parallel studio, poaching a third of the staff, cancelling their publishing deal with the original developer, forcing the closure of them, and essentially strong-arming a backdoor acquisition of the IP and team, which is about as ruthless as it comes on the business end of things, where you can read more about this on Wikipedia. Our final bigger title is Hyper Light Breaker, where developer Heart Machine is technically independent, but the success of the games like Hyper Light Drifter and Solar Ash has allowed them to grow to a size of 50 people, and this game is being published by Gearbox as well, which, if you can remember, also owns Risk of Rain. Rather than a top-down pixel art title, this is a 3D roguelite that looks good, but the Gearbox connection has me thinking Borderlands meets Risk of Rain 2, where again, this is one evolution of the indie dream in growing larger and larger until you are a potential acquisition target for someone like the Embracer Group. Okay, let's move on to the first title that can be considered indie in Sword of the Necromancer, Revenant, the sequel to the action roguelite Sword of the Necromancer, where the developers have drastically changed the look and genre of the game. Rather than a top-down pixel art roguelite, this is now a 3D action-adventure RPG, but does have some of the same recurring mechanics. The main thing here is necromancy, where you're able to revive fallen enemies and have them fight for you, where the objective in this game is to gather the power of the Revenants in order to defeat the Necromancer once and for all. This has revamped the combat system and added a whole world to explore, with companions to recruit and towns to rebuild, looking like quite an impressive sequel. Alright, so I'm not quite sure what to make of this, but Xenonauts 2 is the sequel to a cult classic from 2014 that was successfully kickstarted in 2018, so it has been a long time coming, but the good news is that the developer has been giving frequent updates, while somehow also doing Let's Plays on his YouTube channel. Make of that what you will, but the recent updates indicate that this game is in a good place, with recent open betas being well received, where this is the spiritual successor to the original XCOM games as compared to the modern Firaxis interpretation, where the original Xenonauts is good, so do keep an eye on this, although do also excuse the quality of this trailer since I could only find a 360p version and it is more than 4 years old, so wait for a more updated look on this.
Are you struggling? Missing your regular FARTs? Have you tried going online? Visit exotic destinations. Move your dreams, whoever you are. Apply today. No skills? No worries. Everybody's welcome. You're hired.
The original Moving Out from 2020 was a neat take on co-op local multiplayer titles like Overcooked, where you play as furniture arrangement and relocation technicians, or FART, having to move furniture to the moving truck as quickly as you can. This sequel looks to be more of the same, where according to the description, the one main change is the ability to explore new worlds via interdimensional portals, so the level variety should be much larger, as well as the addition of new playable characters, but these are cosmetic only, where this game should be fun with friends.
2023.
We do only have a teaser trailer for this game as well, but EARTHLOCK 2 is the sequel to EARTHLOCK, a fun throwback JRPG, where apparently this sequel has been changed to an open world action RPG instead of its turn-based roots, so colour me intrigued. One of the more unique indie games was the original Passpartout, having been described as MS Paint's story mode, where you play as a starving artist selling his works of art from the streets all the way to the highest tier galleries, where the sequel looks to be more fleshed out, where you can explore a new town and unlock new studios and tools, looking like a nice progression as well. Rain World Downpour is about to release in a couple of days, so do look forward to it, where this is a DLC to another cult classic title. While technically not a full sequel, it does add 10 regions to the game, with apparently thousands of new maps to explore and 5 additional characters, where you play as a creature in the middle of the food chain known as a slug cat, having to explore this industrial wasteland in order to survive, where I suspect this DLC will give the original game a new lease on life. While not bearing the same name, Dream Settler is essentially Hypnospace Outlaw 2, the very unique and weird 90s internet simulator adventure game where you were helping to police Hypnospace, where naturally this sequel is an early 2000s internet simulator instead. It looks as weird as ever, which is the main appeal, but there is no date or window just yet, so we just have to wait. One of the biggest successes in the indie game space is Rivals of Aether, somehow managing to capture a slice of the platform fighter market from games like Smash Brothers, so of course Rivals 2 will be of interest. We just had a quick announcement trailer that shows off many returning characters with a new 3D look, where of course I'm sad that they've gone away from pixel art since the first game looked awesome, but for carrying the indie torch in the fighting game community, this gets a spot. I just want to give this game a quick shout out since 8-Bit Adventures 2 is releasing later this month, and I've already previewed this in looking at upcoming games of January, where this is an 8-bit title that has amazing pixel art. This developer, like me, clearly has grown up with the classics from the NES, SNES, and PS1 eras of JRPGs, which is lovingly infused into this game, where it's a classic save the world kind of narrative, but where the big bad is a glitch in the world, so it's a little bit meta as well, but if you're a fan of the genre, pick it up later this month. I don't have too much to add for Blasphemous 2, since of course I'm excited that there is a sequel, but we haven't gotten anything other than this 2 symbol, but I don't even know if it will be pixel art, or if it is even another Metroidvania, but surprises are exciting, so I'm down for this. Moving on to more Metroidvanias, we have Momodora Moonlit Farewell, in theory, Momodora 5, where the games are loosely connected but are totally fine as standalone games on their own. This developer tried something different in their previous title, Minoria, which apparently they themselves were not too happy with, so it's back to the Momodora series, which follows on from the excellent Reverie Under the Moonlight, where based on that alone, has me very excited for this. Okay, so technically, Sea of Stars is not a sequel, but a prequel instead, where most curiously, this is set before the events of The Messenger, where it's a very different type of game that they are making as well. It is a turn-based RPG that seems to be inspired by Chrono Trigger as compared to the side-scrolling Ninja Gaiden-inspired action platformer, but I love my JRPGs, so of course I'm interested in this. you're harnessing the power of sun and moon as well as eclipse magic to defeat the big bad known as the Fleshmancer, where it has an amazing look and should be out later this year. Another title that might get on by a technicality is Haunted Chocolatier, the next title from developer Concerned Ape, who is of course best known for Stardew Valley. In many ways, this looks to be very similar to that game, which I'm totally okay with since I love Stardew Valley, but where you are making and selling chocolate instead with the help of some ghosts. This is more on the life sim end of things, with more of a focus on combat and exploration as you gather ingredients for your chocolate, but does have the same dating and relationship system. I'm curious as to what can be added to the life sim genre, but if there's one guy that I trust to figure it out, that would be Eric Barone, so I'm looking forward to this for sure.
Now go. Death to Kronos.
Death to Kronos.
The biggest announcement from the Game Awards as far as I'm concerned is Hades 2, where this is a sequel to the best action roguelite on the market right now, where developer Supergiant Games does not miss, so I'm super hyped for this.
About ready to give in? No, I was born for this.
You play as Melanoi, sister of Zagreus, who was the protagonist of the first game, now having to take on the Titan Kronos in order to rescue her father Hades, where it takes place after the events of the first game and should have some interesting narrative tie-ins as well, where I believe it's supposed to launch in early access this year, so fingers crossed it will be soon. And of course, Hollow Knight Silksong still takes top billing after all these years, where the sequel to the best Metroidvania is a very high bar to beat, where all signs are pointing towards a release this year, where I'm predicting that it will get Game of the Year awards across multiple outlets, including at the Game Awards, beating out traditional AAA titles and showcasing how awesome indie games can be, where you can watch this video for 50 upcoming Metroidvanias.